Okay, should we go? Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 20-something or other. Do you know what episode it is?
No idea.
I've got no idea. Of the Orthohub
But it's been downloaded in 107 countries, I understand.
I didn't want to talk about it. But yes, 107 countries. Of the Orthohub C1D1 podcast with him, Pete Bates, and me, Cash Akhtar. What are we talking about today, Pete?
This one is about, in a nutshell, it's an Englishman realising the American dream. It's kind of reminiscent of, that Eddie Murphy movie, Coming to America. But instead of it being like an African king, this time it's an English orthopaedic surgeon who goes to America.
He has people who bathe him. Is that where you're going? Gosh, no wonder. I want to go to Mayo now.
It's the story of Sanj Kakar, who did his doctor training in England, then moved over to America and never came back. And it's about, how does mum feel about that? What's it like in America? And how's your American accent coming on? Those kind of questions.
Okay, but leave his mum out of it.
All right.
So our special guest today is Sanj Kakar, a.k.a. Special K, a.k.a. Upper Nuts and Jeev, a.k.a. the Greenford Express, a.k.a. the Mo Salah of hand surgery, a.k.a. the third Mayo brother, a.k.a. the American dream. So Sanj is a British orthopaedic surgeon who callously abandoned us here in the UK to travel across the pond and is at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, where he's also a Professor of Orthopaedic Surgery and he specializes in hand and wrist surgery. Our first ever hand surgeon on the podcast. Yeah. A new low. Sanj grew up on the west side. In West London, just 20 minutes down the road from me, although I didn't know him. He was a very accomplished cricketer representing Middlesex, which for the Americans listening is very impressive. Think of it as like being D1 equivalent. He went to school locally. The motto there was...
What's D1?
Division 1. It's a big deal.
Okay.
He went to school locally with the motto as Polatim Ergo Certe. Do you know what that means, Pete? You're a Latin scholar.
Ergo is me or I.
Yeah. No, that's ego. Isn't that ego?
Ergo is I go, isn't it?
So it was slowly, therefore surely. Does that ring a bell, Sanj?
It does not. It does not. You're teaching me, so thank you.
Yeah, that's what every day's a school day. He attended med school here in our own parish, our very own St Bartholomew's, where he honed his cricketing skills in underground cricket in the secret basements beneath College Hall. It's becoming a recurrent theme that so many of our guests have links to Barts and the Royal London. It's never intentional. We do invite other people too. It just goes to show what an influential place it is on a global scale.
Oh dear, this is nauseating.
He completed a BSc in orthopaedics at University College London, where he was awarded a first and won an academic prize, or the prize. He did his basic surgical training in London, where he obtained his membership of the Royal College of Surgeons, and his prodigious talent was picked up early on. Did you write this, Sanj?
No, I got a 2-1. I didn't get a first.
Oh, no way. Someone lied to me. I've done my research. I actually made 2 phone calls, which is more than I normally do. All right, someone's getting a kicking. But very unusually for us insular Brits, he moved to the US to pursue the American dream. Did his orthopedic residency in the orthopedic surgery program at Boston University School of Medicine, an MBA at Babson College in Massachusetts, and then a fellowship in hand and upper extremity orthopedic surgery at the world-famous Mayo Clinic. And they liked him so much, he stayed on and was appointed to the faculty there. When were you appointed?
In 2010.
Gosh, man, getting on. Wow. He was the 2017 Bunnell Fellow for the American Society for Surgery of the Hand. He was awarded the Marshall Urist Young Investigator Award from the Association of Bone and Joint Surgeons, Deputy Chair of the Hand Committee for the International Society of Orthopaedic Surgery and Traumatology, and he's heavily involved with the American Society for Surgery of the Hand, where he's chaired the Physician Burnout Committee, been something called the Education Captain, my captain. He's chaired the Research Management Committee, the Arthroscopy Education Task Force, and the Bunnell Fellowship Committee. Sanj has also chaired the Fellowship Task Force for the American Orthopaedic Association. He's president of the Minnesota Orthopaedic Society, go Timberwolves, and he's a previous ABC Fellow, which is where our paths crossed, and we'll come back to that. But most importantly, as you can see over his shoulder, he is a fellow fan of the greatest football team in the world, the mighty Reds, Liverpool FC. Come on.
Currently sitting second to Man City, yeah?
Sanj, welcome to Orthohub.
Oh, Cash, Pete, it's so good to see you, and thanks for the honor. It really is. Now you say I'm the second-hand surgeon. Remember, you had a famous Andy Williams.
When I started, I thought I might do hand surgery because it seemed like quite complex and interesting. I now know the error of my ways.
Who confessed his love for hand surgery. So he was close to doing hand surgery as well.
It was nip and tuck.
Yeah, but he didn't know what to do with all the money in hand surgery, so he chose knees. Pete, kick us off.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, buddy.
Sanj, and I mean this in the kindest possible way. You're one of these guys you're somewhat nauseatingly good at whatever you turn your hand to. You're good at sport, good at medicine. You're always the golden boy on the rotation. Every boss you worked for loved you. Tell us, was it a medical family you came from?
No, Pete. It's a good question. You know, my father's an engineer, my mother's a linguist. And she was going to medical school and got pregnant with my sister, and the rest is history. So I have one older sister, and, as an Indian boy, as Cash would say, my father said it's medicine, law, accountancy, or engineering.
Well, I had exactly that conversation when I was 6. 100% that conversation. Yeah.
What's it to be?
Yeah. I had no choice in it, Sanj.
Yes. No, so luckily I enjoyed science, and so medicine was the natural path,
Yeah. Do you ever sometimes look back and think, maybe I should have gone for accountancy, or maybe law was the thing? I've been a great barrister or something like that. I do sometimes wonder whether I might have been an okay barrister.
Pete, it's funny you mention that. Like, my only experience to medicine growing up was visiting my GP. So I just assumed I would go to medical school, become a GP, and just stay in the local area. Never did I think it would lead to these journeys that we have. I mean, in your field, in trauma, and Cash in Neanderthal surgery with hip and knee surgery.
I love that to say knees.
That we would travel the world and meet people and teach. I didn't think that was what medicine was. I thought it was honestly going into general practice.
Sanj, I don't travel anywhere. I sit in this studio and talk to people. The only reason I didn't want to do medicine. I had forced into it. I had no choice. I was the first person in my family to go to university. My dad and my granddad said, "You're going to be a doctor." I wanted to go. I really wanted to read classics. I wanted to do English and Latin.
Really?
Yeah, really, genuinely.
Latin? Oh,
I really wanted to do that.
God.
I did. I really enjoyed it. I didn't want to do medicine at all. And
you want to study Pliny at Cambridge?
All that? Yeah, absolutely. I love all that. Pliny the Elder, not the younger. Now here I am, forced to sit with you.
So what was it? What was it that drove you to the US? What took you there? Why leave the NHS and move across?
Pete, it's a great question, and I remember it so vividly. So, just moving back, obviously we were at medical school together, and my goal was to get done in 5 years, and I had my good friends that you remember, Shirag Shiradaria and Farhan Ahmed and Rahul Shah and Rash Alam and Sugi and Vidya. I think they were in your class.
Yeah.
And my goal after 2 years was just going to clinicals and be done.
Yeah.
And I think they wanted to, remember at UCL would have those Tuesday night parties, and they said, let's just do one more year as a Bachelor of Science degree.
Cocktails at UCL.
And we can cocktails, that's it.
Yeah,
right?
Mallet Street. Never went. Allegedly, I heard about it.
I never went. and so my best friend said, no, we'll do a BSc. So I was doing it in anatomy, and then I looked at all my modules, and Prof. McGrather, who was Professor of Plastic Surgery at UCL at the time, said, listen, none of your modules match up to what you want to do. Why don't you do orthopedics at Stanmore?
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm like, peds? I'm not interested in peds. And that's what I knew about orthopedics. I didn't even know what orthopedics meant at the time. And so I went to Stanmore for a year, and that was the best year ever. I honestly met Andy Williams there. I met Prof. Bentley and Faris Haddad. And so long story short, growing up during that time, I remember speaking to Prof. Bentley and Prof. McGrather, and I asked them, and I said, I want to do academic orthopedics. What would your advice be? And they both said, you need to go to the US. Oh, really? And I said, I've never even been to the US on vacation, let alone go and live there. Where do I go? And they said, you need to go to Boston. Boston was where everything was coming out. So I was a house officer at Whipps Cross, and I remember this story vividly.
In our own parish,
Yes. I opened up JBJS, and I wrote a letter to everybody on the front cover of JBJS, the editorial board. And I said, like, I'm interested in doing research because I wanted to do research and come back home. And I wrote must have 50 letters, faxed them over, and maybe got 20 replies saying, yeah, sure, come over. So as I'd never been to America, I thought I could go to Boston in the morning, San Francisco in the afternoon, and be back in New York by the end of the day. And then clearly I sat down with Prof. McGrowther in his office at UCL. We got a map out of the US and we plotted a course for a week. And so I literally, with a backpack, went from Philadelphia all the way down to, I went Boston, Philadelphia, New York. And I just met with random people who replied. And I said, I wanted to do research. And one person at Mass General Hospital, this is where fate takes over, said, look, you've come here. I can't help you. But there's a chair of orthopedics at Boston University called Tom Einhorn, who's giving grand rounds. Why don't you meet with him? I didn't even plan to meet this guy. So I went to his lecture. As he was leaving the podium, I gave him my CV. That night, he called Prof. Bentley and McGrowther. The next morning, he called me into his office, and the rest is history. So that's a story that I haven't told many people, but it's the truth of the matter. And I remember meeting with McGrowther and Bentley, and they planned out my career for me in their office that way.
Wow. It's fantastic how these things work out, isn't it? A lot of it is just kind of, serendipity. You were there at that point having that conversation. Had you been, I don't know, in another hospital talking to someone else, that wouldn't have happened.
It's
totally.
It's an incredible story because basically two very senior clinicians who had lots of other things to do to occupy their time totally went out to bat for you, and then subsequent senior guys again took a lot of time out of their normal schedules to help you out. Do you think we're as good at doing that nowadays? I'm just wondering whether I'm looking at myself here, thinking, am I as good at that of looking after junior people, advocating for junior people who I see to be awesome, or I think that they're really promising? Are we as good at that? Are you good at that, Cash, do you think?
Training program director, I do have a lot of these conversations. I'd like to think I am, but it's for others to judge.
Yeah.
What I do know is these two senior people decided that they didn't want Sanj in the same country as them. So either they thought he was amazing or they thought he was terrible.
Yeah, we need to
get out of here.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Exactly. But Pete, I've seen you in action when I came over into the ABC. The amount of energy and dedication you give to trainees, I think yourself a little bit disservice there. I think we're in this privileged position where we can help junior trainees. We can give advice, and I totally agree with you. The amount of time that they took for me out of their time and how busy they are, I will always hold that dear to myself, and hopefully can give back to others.
Just before we move on, just medical school, going back a little bit. You played a lot of cricket. I've heard very impressive things, and I heard you then shoulder injuries, and you turned your hand to golf, and I heard kind of mastered that as well. Do you still play golf?
Well, so yeah, we still play golf. So it's funny. So Prem Achan will remember this. So I remember playing for Barts, and I dislocated my shoulder, and there we are. And I'm lying down.
How did you do it?
And he's got his foot in my axilla, pulling my shoulder back in.
As a med student,
I'm like, do you know what you're doing? And I think we used to play the stump game, right, where you drink a beer and run around a cricket stand. Yeah. So he had a few of those beers, and I'm like, what's going on here? And so he reduced my shoulder, and then I had it fixed. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Andy Williams was on the service with Ian Bailey at the time, when my shoulder was fixed at Stanmore.
Right. Fantastic. And did you ever play cricket with Pete?
Oh, yes. And his good friend, John Simmons.
Simo. Yeah, Simo.
Yeah, we tended to go in for naked cricket, basically.
Naked cricket?
Well, yeah, if you dropped a catch, you had to take all your clothes off. Yeah,
oh, my God.
Of time, yeah.
No wonder you left the country. If I'd seen Pete Bates naked, I'd have left the country and not looked back.
I have seen Mr. Bates in more ways than you have ever dreamed of.
More than Mrs. Bates. Yeah. You must have felt like that scene in The Crying Game. Now, listen, without doing a disservice, what you did was still quite an unusual thing. Daniel Nawabi did it a few years after you. He was another golden boy. I kind of, as an Americanophile, is that a word?
Yankophile?
Yank lover. Basically, without doing any disservice, we have amazing physicians here delivering world-class patient care, research, education, as you know. But to me, I still see going to America, making it. I kind of see it like winning the Heisman, being the first round draft pick, and leaving kind of after 1 year, going straight to the league. So, I see it guaranteed fame and riches. So were you excited? Were you nervous?
Yeah, I mean, I'd never been out here, right? I came out here on a leap of faith. I mean, I hadn't done the USMLEs. I remember doing my MRCS part 1 and 2 and then taking the tube from Greenford to UCL, sitting there studying for the USMLEs. It was daunting, but honestly, you had to take a leap of faith. And my plan was actually spend a year of research and then probably come home. And then one thing led to another. And I thought, you know what, let me just stay here and see what I can do. But the plan was always to come back home. I still think of London as home. My parents still live in Greenford. So we have very strong ties to London and to home.
Do you have any family in America? Do you have any ties over there or connections or, like reasons to stay, so to speak? When you started out?
No. I met my wife here and she's an ophthalmologist who ironically trained in Nottingham. Right. And she has a stronger English accent than the two of you put together. So, yeah, I met my wife here at the scrub sink, actually, at Mayo Clinic. I was a fellow, and I asked one of my now partners, Steve Moran, I said, I need to meet the one. So he said, why don't you follow me? And then he introduced me to her. Her name's Sophie Bakri. And he goes, oh, you two must know each other because you're from England. And I said, well, of course, because England only has 2 people. And obviously, we knew each other growing up. So it's ironic in our house. We have 4 children. And they speak English and they speak American.
And never the twain shall meet.
Oh, so they can turn on either accent seamlessly, can they?
At a flip of a switch, yes.
So Sanj, listen. At the end of your research here, so you've done your USMLEs when you've moved to America. Already finished when you move?
Yeah. So I did my USMLEs before I came to America.
Okay.
So I basically moved home because they said we would bring you over, but we can't pay you. So I moved home and I just saved all my sort of salary to at least give me something when I came over.
So you do your year's research. What's your research in? Hand surgery?
No. It was on fracture healing, the biology of fracture repair.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, one of Pete's probably colleagues and mentors, and you've had him on your show. That's where I met Tom Einhorn and Paul Tornetta. And obviously did a ton of work with... Exactly. Did a ton of work with him, and what a legend of a person,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a very impressive chap. So at the end of that year of research, then you think... Because initially the plan was to do a year's research and come back to the UK. So what happens then?
Yep. So we were doing some great work, and then they had a 6-year program at Boston University where they said you could do your house jobs again and then spend an extra year in the lab and then do your clinical training. So, training in the US is usually 5 years, 1 year house job, 4 years in orthopedics. So this was a 6-year program. So basically that 1 year set up the foundation to then go back into the lab after doing house jobs again. So we did house jobs again.
Intern a year.
Exactly.
Then research
exactly.
and then residency.
Went back. Yeah, and then 4 years of residency. So 6-year program in total.
Did you have to go into this mythical thing called the match?
I did. I didn't understand the match at all. Had no idea about it. And it's basically a way where candidates or trainees rank fellowship programs and fellowship programs rank you. And you put your sort of top choices in a computer and they do the same and it matches you. And it's a really stressful process because you have no control of where you're going. It's a leap of faith in a way. And so obviously not knowing much about the US system, I really had to take a lot of faith in my mentors. And honestly, as you said, Pete, I certainly believe a degree of fate in all of this and how it worked out. And so, because it's tough, it's not easy. It's not easy at home and it's not easy over here, matching where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, one does talk about fate a lot. I remember Elena talks about fate a bit, but actually, people who put themselves out there and who are likable and good and strong make themselves accessible to lots of people. opportunities do crop up, and you often put the ones that that work, like your one with Einhorn. Yes, you put that down to fate, but actually it was the putting yourself out there that got you to that point, isn't it? And fate kind of takes care of the rest, if you like.
Yeah, I think you're right in that. I mean, obviously, you have to have a lot of support and a lot of luck and good people behind you, and I'm very fortunate. I've had my fair share.
So just going back to the match, just tell us about that, because nowadays on Twitter you see a lot of people getting very, very stewed up about the match and making. I mean, we know nothing about it, saying that it's very expensive because you're having to match to loads of places, and yet there are visitation fees wherever you go, and it seems like some people get left at the door at the end. So after all that, you may not match.
Yeah, it is stressful. I feel for the medical students, basically what they do at the end of their third year. So medical school here is 4 years. So 2 years preclinical and 2 years clinical. And really you have to know if you're going to do orthopedics essentially in the first year of medical school. And they're doing a lot of research. And then in their third year, they start doing these rotations, both at home. And then they pick 1 or 2 away rotations in institutions where they may want to go and do their orthopedic residency. Super, super competitive, way too many candidates for the number of residency spots. And so then, as I said, it goes into this sort of computer algorithm that tries to match you, but many, many people, unfortunately, don't match. And then they either, what they call scramble to places where the programs aren't filled, or they'll do research for a year, or they may do, for example, general surgery internship, and then try and match into orthopedics the next year. It's very, very stressful. I don't recall that amount of stress when we were growing up through medical school.
Yeah. I mean, the pressures are immense because I don't think I knew I wanted to do orthopedics until I was a PGY3, at least. That's when I thought I'll go for it. Before that, I was happy to do vascular, plastics, urology, whatever I was going through. But it worked out for you because clearly you ranked Boston first, they ranked you first, and it worked out.
Yeah, but I mean, it worked out. But obviously, I think there were only a couple of programs that I had put down at the time because I was what they call a foreign medical grad, right? And there was visa things and making sure that all matched up. So yeah, I only ranked a couple of programs, so I was very, very lucky.
Yeah, no, I respect your loyalty because I would have gone for Miami or LA. No doubt.
But would they have had you?
Yeah, probably not.
This is us with a call to action. Are we recording?
Yeah.
Speak to that one.
Yeah.
This is us with a call to action. This is us with a call to action.
That sounds quite serious, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Are we using these microphones still?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
This is us with a call to action.
A CTA, if you will. What is a CTA, Pete?
It's a call to action.
Yeah, okay. So you said that bit already. And basically, what we need you guys to please help us out here. We're trying to grow the channel. I would like to share it with people who you think might be interested in this. I appreciate that may not be that many people. If you are watching on YouTube, what are they going to do on YouTube, Pete?
They're going to click.
What? They're going to click the like button.
They're going to click the like button.
They're going to press subscribe.
They're going to press subscribe.
They're going to turn on notifications.
They're going to turn on those notifications.
It's literally like having a pet monkey. And then if you're on a podcast player, please can you leave us a rating? Make sure that you subscribe as well. And please let everyone know.
Tell your mates about it.
Call to action over.
Call to action terminated.
Back to the regular programming.
ABC Fellow. Just tell us about the ABC Fellowship. Is that's still going strong? Is it?
Yeah. So for most people, when they know the genesis of the ABC Fellowship started in 1948, right? And it basically was the presidents, I think, of the American, Canadian, and British Orthopaedic Society or associations. I might be off there. Who after the war formed this sort of traveling club for the dissemination of orthopedics. And now it's expanded to Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa as well. So this was in 2017, where 7 of us, there were 5 of us from the US and two of us from Canada, came over. And honestly, that was like coming home because I'd sort of seen the system in the UK growing up a little bit. And now coming back and seeing all of you grow up, Pete, you had less hair on your head than the last time I remembered you. Maybe more hair elsewhere, but but it was just good seeing you, meeting Cash for the first time, seeing Prim, right?
Yeah.
You know, I've known Prim since 1992, and just seeing how everyone's grown up and just become like leaders and authorities in their own right, and it really sort of brought that home to me, and it allowed me also to travel throughout the United Kingdom. I really hadn't left London when I trained in back in the 90s. And then we went to Australia and New Zealand, and what an amazing time it is. The friendships that you make, I met Faris Haddad, and since then I've been serving the Bone and Joint Journal for hand and wrist surgery. So just the contacts that you make are just unbelievable, in the friendships.
But it's hard, isn't it? It's a hard tour, because it seems to me like everywhere you go, the hosts just want to get you hopelessly drunk and keep you up all night at some party place. I remember we had like a sort of academic bit where you gave your presentations, and then we
did a street art tour.
We did a street art tour, and then it was off to karaoke,
East London and Shoreditch,
and then it was off to the Royal College of Surgeons to get hopelessly drunk, and then it was off to Bounce, where we played table tennis,
that late night bar,
and then it might have been somewhere after that.
There was somewhere after that,
and then like you're getting a bus to Oxford at 6 a.m, where you've got to repeat the whole process, and they're gonna get you to do something equally hideous that night, and then the next night it's the same, and the next night. I mean, how do you survive it? I never did it, but I was kind of scared of it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Well, I think medical school at Barts was good training for that, right? In terms of the social aspect.
Yeah.
I still have the bell, actually, that was given to us as a gift at the Royal London.
The Liberty Bell.
The bell, yes.
The replica, because the Liberty Bell was actually
have...
founded 100 yards down from the hospital, right?
Yeah.
In the Foundry.
Exactly. Yeah, so I still have that at home, and... But I must admit, I was a bit of a lightweight. I would wait for people like Pete to pass out, pretend I drank, and then throw it over the shoulder and have a quick orange squash and try and get out of it. It was tough. But boy, what an experience.
Yeah, because the thing is, I don't drink, and about 3 a.m, I was broken, right? And then you guys are still there. And then at 6 o'clock, you're on the bus to the next place, and it just, and everyone's trying to break you. The thing is, so Jonathan Lavell's a knee surgeon in London. Very pleasant, never really talked to me. And he's very famous for this quote where he basically says, every step you take after midnight should be a step closer to home. Right? And as I get older, that rings truer and truer. One thing that struck me about it was that at that point, you guys were very kind and generous to me, particularly you, because I was like a newly appointed consultant, very wet behind the ears. And it was just unusual. It was a different vibe, because in England, if Pete upsets me, I just call him. But the thing is, and yet everyone who came across was very polished, very slick. Were you always like that? Or was that something that's you've had to practice being in the US, or was it something just rubbed off? Everyone seemed just more professional over there. Is that fair?
Yes, and
no, I disagree. I think we've had so many great people come from the UK and Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. I think what was the secret sauce in our year when we came was that we were 7 individuals, and I don't know how it happened, but we just became the best of friends. We were just at the academy just now, where 4 of us were together for dinner. We're so tight, and we were so different. And I think hopefully that rubbed off on our tour in terms of the friendships. There were no egos or anything, and we all did different specialties, which I think helped. But it was interesting, right? There were 7 of us. And there were 5 Indians, right? one Caucasian and 1 Chinese guy, and they're like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah, not very diverse, is it?
And it was very different. But no, I think we just gelled, and hopefully the relationships, well, just like this, right? This relationship we have today was because of that tour.
Yeah, I mean that's the only time we've ever met in person, right? I had it down as 2015. I don't want to correct you; it's your life, but. That's when I was appointed.
It was 2015. Yeah, you're right. 2015. And it's interesting, Cash. We also have a love for Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah.
And it's ironic because I bought a couple of stones that you can do in the stadium And I've never seen them in person, but thanks to you, when you go and take pictures and send them to us, it's amazing.
So Sanj's family, his name and his family names are kind of engraved on stones outside Anfield.
Oh, right.
And so I was I found it the first time. So we looked for like 2 hours, found it. I sent him a photo of it. And then, and you've got another one now. So you're kind of basically paying for the stadium.
I have my love for my family right here.
Yeah.
And Liverpool Football Club is literally just underneath.
Yeah, mine's the other way around. You've got to get your priorities right.
Dear. This is going public. Come on.
Yeah. No, I said to my wife, I said to her that the day we got married was the second best day of my life. And she said, oh, well, the first day was the kids born. I go, no, 25th of May, 2005, we won the Champions League. And she still hasn't forgiven me for that.
I remember watching that game when 3-0 down and then we won, but I had no one to celebrate with because nobody followed it at the time. And I'm like, I went to work and I told people and they were like, yeah, it's no big deal.
Total disinterest.
I had no idea.
I proposed to my wife 10 minutes after the full-time whistle, and I maintain to this day that's not legally valid consent. I was hoodwinked. I got to stand up in court.
Well, you could guess the name of our son. He was the biter for Liverpool who went to Barcelona, so he's called Louis. My wife doesn't know that.
Tell us about the Mayo Clinic. What is it? Because we have the Mayo Clinic up on this pedestal, and rightfully so. A lot of awesome stuff comes out of it. A lot of opinion leaders are at the Mayo Clinic. A huge number of publications come out of the clinic. When wealthy billionaires want to go and get their joints fixed, they go to the Mayo Clinic. What is it about it that is so awesome? That's a serious question, not a flippant one.
No. I think it's a great question, Pete, and the reason why I love it, because to me, it's the closest thing to practicing back at home. It is purely about patient care. And
No, so what, you get paid peanuts and abused?
No, because I tell you, it sounds a bit corny, but when they say the needs of the patient come first, it truly is, because here we're in a salaried model.
Yeah.
So you could take care of one patient or 1,000 patients. And basically, there is no financial interest, and so you take care of the patient for what you think is the right way, be that non-operative or operative. And it's a secret sauce. You're absolutely right. If you look at the shield of Mayo Clinic, it's 3 shields, and each represents clinical care, education, and research. And all 3 are intertwined. It is an expectation that when you're here, not only do you try and push the clinical envelope, but you do that based on solid research and education, and is expected of you to try and do 2, or if not all 3 shields. And some many wonderful people that practice here or have practiced here. And the culture is unique all the way from, I remember, even in the operating rooms, the person cleaning the floors would take pride in it. And I remember asking the patient, the person when I was a fellow, and he said, look, I'm helping saving lives here. Because if I don't clean the floor appropriately, if there's an infection risk and you operate, then the patient suffers. And that culture, while we speak about it very flippantly here because we see it every day, it truly goes down to the core from the top all the way down to the bottom. And I actually don't think there's a top and the bottom. It's a physician-led organization, which I think is different to other institutions in that there truly is, if you look at our CEOs, they are physician leaders. And I think that's not forgotten on people.
You talk about secret sauce and getting that culture right, but getting that culture where the whole institution is kind of all singing in the same direction. That is difficult to achieve, isn't it? Do you think it's purely that it's run by clinicians? Is there more to it than that?
No, I think it's the emphasis on quality and quality improvement. And Mayo Clinic now, because of their work they've done, they do partner with other people around the country and around the world to try and help with that secret sauce. It is a special place. It truly is. I'm talking to you from Rochester, Minnesota, but there's also Arizona and Florida as well. And that culture is special. And I do believe it is.
So that culture is reproduced in those franchise sites. In those other sites.
It's like Starbucks, right?
Absolutely.
Every caramel macchiato is the same. Now, Sanj, just I'm gonna reel you in a bit there. So I was very fortunate to be awarded a Winston Churchill Fellowship, and I spent 6 months in the States. A month was at Mayo, and I was with Mike Stewart, Bruce Levy, two amazing guys, international superstars of knee surgery. And the fellow at the time was Aaron Critch. You could just tell was going to be an international MVP, and he has been. But Rochester, Minnesota, man. There's like 2 shops, and they shut at 2:00 on a Saturday.
Is that what it's
Well,
like?
it's actually 12. They actually close at 12:00. No. It's better. It's better than that, but it's not. It's not London.
Yeah.
And a classic example is we just had a risk course here over the weekend, and at 10:00 they were closing the restaurant.
Yeah.
And people were just getting warmed up, and it was shutting down on a Friday night at 10:00. But it is. But Cash, it is so easy to work and live here, right? I can be home in 10 minutes. There's no traffic. COVID, we've all lived through COVID. And actually, during COVID, it was actually a good place to be because we have space. We don't have that congestion as a major city like London. I mean, you live it in the underground, the tubes, all that stuff. So it's just so easy to live here and to do what you want to do. But you're right, it's not a London.
So where do your patients come from? Are they all coming from external? I mean, you obviously have a few locals.
I think 50% or so come from within a 3-hour geographical region. So obviously, 3 hours is not too far away, but a lot of our patients do come from all over the country or all over the world. But we do take care of a lot of people from the state of Minnesota and nearby states.
Yeah. The thing so when I went there, basically you fly from O'Hare to Rochester, Minnesota, and you get out. I got out of like a 747 at Chicago O'Hare Airport, and then you get into this plane, which is like a tube, right? And there's literally one seat there, an aisle, one seat. It's like 10 rows. Right, and literally on a wing and a prayer, and then this thing's wobbling around. I literally shat myself, and then you land there, and there's like a single or maybe a 2-story airport, and then as we landed there, a 747 with some Saudi prince landed and buzzed the whole thing, like literally the whole ground shook, and then you realise that these people come from all over the world to come there, and it's bizarre. I was looking for the sign for baggage claim, and it said check in Mayo Clinic at the airport. And I was like, I just want my bags.
Before you pick your bag up.
Yeah. And it's all over. It is the only show in town. And my hotel was like linked. I stayed at the Marriott, and it was like linked by walkways. So you don't have to go outside even. You can walk through Rochester without ever leaving just to get to the hospital. So everything is
Well, that's
served.
because it's minus 40 degrees in the winter and you daren't go out because it's absolutely frigid.
Must be crazy. And then the thing was that the medical education building was unreal. It was like a skyscraper.
Yeah. As you've seen, the investment in terms of research and education is second to none, and there is, and you feel it's not a weight, it's an actual joy from the history, as Pete mentioned, from the Mayo brothers and all the big names that have come through this institution. You feel a sense of responsibility to push the field forward in a responsible way. And luckily, we have the ability and the resources for people to try and help you succeed. And I'm truly grateful for that privilege.
The thing that's interesting about this salary-based model is that it's what we do in the UK, and similar to you, we're not incentivized for number of patients we see. It's about delivering care. There are certain challenges at times to delivering that care, but in over there, you could have gone somewhere else and been a multi-millionaire.
It's not as I said, it's for me, it's about, as I said, I had a very middle-class background, right? And so I'm a Greenford boy, right, through and through. So for me, it's not about that. It's about it sounds corny, but honestly, I learned this from people like Prof Bentley and Faris and Andy. It's about just trying your best and pushing yourself.
But Sanj, it's a serious point. It does somewhat fly in the face of the what is a very American concept, which is that incentivization is king, and that if you provide financial incentivization, things will happen much more reliably than if you salary people? Do you salary people? Then there's this association of people sitting back, being a bit lazy. I'm getting paid anyway. Why would I bother doing that extra case on the list? Why would I bother seeing another 3 patients in clinic?
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Pete.
How do you get over that?
But if you look at the people that stay here, most of us have trained here in one way or the other, right? I did a year fellowship, so I knew what I was getting myself into. Now, it's not for everybody, so I think if I look at my partners, either they've been medical students here, residents here, or did a fellowship here and stayed on. I think you mentioned Bruce Levy. I think Bruce did his fellowship here, I think.
He did, yeah.
And then went back and then came back on staff. So he knew what he was getting into. But the other thing is that it takes, but as you said, medicine now, there's so much red tape and bureaucracy, right? A lot of that is taken away from us. Like, for example, billing, right? I don't know how to bill for the surgeries we do. I have no idea how to do that. Now, a lot of my friends around the country have all the codes down and they know it because they have to. But for us, we just take care of the patients and the rest takes care of itself. So that part of it is so easy. So that's why I say literally you just turn up to work, take care of patients and hopefully do a good job. And you're not worried about the financial aspects. Yeah. Now, obviously, if that's something of interest for you, then there's different models. And that's the beauty of this country, I think. It's so vast. You mentioned Daniel Nwabi, right? He is in a very different model to what we are here. But that's obviously a model that suits him.
So, it's interesting because I imagine, even for him, it's always patient care first, as you're saying, as it is for everyone. But in different parts of the country, I spent time at Rush, Chicago, there are people buying surgery centers there. And so, there are opportunities for orthopedic surgeons in the US, aren't there, to become businesses and franchises in a way that isn't really the same over here.
Yeah, but I think things are changing, right? Every year, those sort of things are changing. But I've also seen surgeons in the UK, for example, own their own clinics and having that sort of model. So I think that sort of model is everywhere. And if we think of private practice, right, where was that born? There's this little street down the road from you where that sort of concept came from. So I think medicine in terms of that aspect is everywhere. I don't think that's just a US thing. I think that's all over the world.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, fair play.
Yeah.
He's referring, for our international listeners, he's referring to Harley Street,
yeah,
which is just down there.
Because you'd have attendings, consultants, senior surgeons, senior physicians moving between institutions based largely upon how much they get paid. I'll get paid a bit more there, so I'll move to this other place because I'm going to do a better deal there. That's quite an American concept, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think Pete, you can also probably look back with your colleagues and your generation, the other generations. I think that financial aspect in medicine is changing. I don't think our generation, it's as much as a big deal as it was for maybe 2 or 3 generations ago. I think lifestyle is more important now, right? I think you see that amongst the trainees.
For sure.
100%. So I think that model, while it used to be the case, is not so rampant at the moment as it used to be.
Yeah, but you do get free meals in the doctor's lounge still, right?
we do have a nice little surgeon's area to grab a sandwich or two. Yeah.
So the Mayo is huge when it comes to every time you go to the academy, there's an ICL, there's someone on stage. Invariably, someone from the Mayo will be there in some whatever specialty. So is that something that you're actively encouraged to get involved with regards to research and dissemination of research?
Yeah, as I said, those are 3 shields, right? And so the thing is, this place allows you to be what our chair says, I probably get the words wrong, what you like to do, what's good for you, and what's good for Mayo Clinic, right? So you pick your area of what you want to do. So, for example, mine is in a certain area of wrist surgery. It allows you, I have 12 partners in hand surgery, right? And so you can super specialize and really get into it. We have the anatomy lab just down the road. I can literally call them and say, can you have a cadaver specimen in the next 3-4 hours? And you can get there and get all the latest tools to allow you to really throw yourself into it and ask those difficult questions and challenge dogma in a way that was maybe difficult, for example, when I was in London, right? It was just a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Here it's easier to do that, and the resources are there behind you, and that allows you then, Cash, to obviously try and move the field forward.
One of the things that we were hitting Heather Valliere on and we're discussing with her and with Paul Tornetta is about research, and that's one of the big shields you're talking about. One of the advantages of what you might call our socialist system in the UK is that research can be truly nationwide. So if I decide I want to look into a particular thing, I can devise a randomized controlled trial, and everyone around the country will automatically buy into that because there's a structure for doing that. Whereas in the US, there is still, this sense of institutional egos of each center, and we're bigger than them, and they're bigger than them, and each one has its own sense of self-importance, and we have that as well. But it's much more so, and there's less maybe interdepartmental, interinstitutional collaboration. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's one thing, Pete, that I noticed from the ABC Fellowship when we traveled around the country in the UK. We were in awe of how you have your research set up to answer really important questions, well-powered studies. There's a recent study called the SWIFT study that came out about scaphoid fractures, right? I mean, it was published in the Lancet. I mean, that is liquid gold right there, and it's very, very hard to do here. Now, having said that, you're in the trauma world, Tornetta and his sort of colleagues, they answered important questions like, for example, tibial nailing and stuff, prospective randomized studies. But certainly I think the system that you have in the United Kingdom and the guidelines that you can develop, I think most of us are in awe that we can't do that for the reasons that you established. It's very hard to get these highly powered studies done, multi-center across the country. And also the rules are different with IRB. Compared to the United Kingdom to the US, every hospital has a different sort of
institutional review
approval
board
process for studies. Yes, thank you very much for that explanation.
I'll translate.
To Akkar, Mr. Akkar, yes.
You just keep talking, I'll just keep translating.
No, but you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head with that. But will that change? I mean, it's hard to do, to be honest, for the struggles that you mentioned.
Yeah.
But it has been done, and that's on us to try and answer those questions if we can.
Tell us about being a Brit in America. You say your kids can speak the two languages fluently. What about other UK traditions? Do you use deep frying a turkey on Thanksgiving, or are you totally Americanized, or are you where are you sitting?
No, Pete, we're very English still. So every time my parents come, we bring Ribena. Right, we have Marmite. We have thanks to Amazon. My wife has the baked beans and Cadbury's chocolate. And I'll tell you a funny story. So when I first came over, as I said, I'd never been to the US, and I remember watching Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I thought that was like a Hershey's bar. So one of the first things I did when I got up in New York was buy a Hershey's bar, and it's the most disgusting chocolate I've ever had in my life.
It is,
and so nothing beats Cadbury's chocolate. But one thing that we are very English, and the beauty of here is that we get all the football games live here. So from 6 a.m. till 12 p.m. Minnesota time, we can literally watch every Premiership game going. So when you have like Premiership Sunday, the last weekend, and my dad said, well, which game shall I watch? I go, Dad, we can watch whatever game you want. They're all live here. So football here, and it's soccer, so well done. We have all soccer, yes, not American. Yes, I call football here American handball. Yeah. But yeah, it is so big here. It's easy, and so it's very easy to stay connected. I still know when Mother's Day is in the UK, when it's to the US. So we're still very English, and we'll never lose that, I don't think.
I had visions of you guys kind of doing your house up like a Halloween, like a haunted house, going full on American, going trick-or-treating. You kind of dressed as, the Addams Family. That's not happening, is it?
It's funny. Halloween is a big deal here. And it was never such a big deal growing up in London. I remember I didn't really do trick-or-treating, but here, there's pictures of my wife in a witch's outfit, and I'm in a Spider-Man's outfit, and our kids are trick-or-treating. I mean, it's such a big deal, and honestly, it's a lot of fun. Maybe I'm sort of making up for when I was a child and we didn't really do it as much. but it's a lot of fun here.
In the US, they do Halloween really, really
You've done it, haven't
They
you?
do it really well. It's hard. You feel like an absolute prude if you don't get involved. You've got to be utterly joyless not to join in.
Well, it's funny.
It's, really
it's very different over here. So over here, people I grew up with go around, breaking windows and do things as a trick. And my parents would basically turn off all the lights at the front of the house and say, pretend we're not home. If someone comes to the door. So it's a very different vibe over here.
Now, Cash, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Buckinghamshire, High Wycombe, in the Shire. Just 20 minutes from Greenford, down the M40.
Yes, I thought when you said your neighbours, you were in Southall or something like that.
I spent a lot of time in Southall. Every Eid I was in Southall. Every Diwali I was in Southall. I was cruising up and down the Broadway, pumping the bass with the Rude Boys. We had a Ford Escort 1.3 kitted out to look like a Cosworth. It wasn't mine, it was my mate's, and it kind of said, on a mission.
Oh dear.
Well,
this is painful.
No, it's funny. Every time I come home, my dad picks me up from Heathrow, and we always go through Southall because I want to see it, I want to smell it, and it brings back all the memories.
You smell it before you see it, right?
Sanj, tell us what if you were selling the US to someone, what are the things you absolutely love about living in the US outside of the Mayo Clinic?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like I alluded to earlier, we travel a lot, and every time the plane lands in Minneapolis, that's where we are right now, it's a privilege to live here. I think that there's issues all over the world, right? We don't need to get into the details of politics, etc. But honestly, it's an area, it's a country that you work hard. The sky really is your limit. You do need luck, absolutely. But the people that I have met during this journey, I've only been in practice for 12 years and continue to meet. I've had such great mentors and friends. And there's a premise of working hard, but playing hard. And maybe when I was at home in London, we worked really hard, but maybe there wasn't that sort of play hard as well attitude.
If you come and go out with Bates and Atchan, I assure you will play hard.
No, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I do.
Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Broadly speaking, yeah.
And I think here it doesn't matter what you look like, your race, color, or creed. If you work hard and you happen to be a little bit good at what you're doing, the American dream, I still think, is here.
It's a real thing.
So it is a real thing, and it's a privilege to live here. And I tell this to my children every day. They take a lot for granted, and I think we're just very, very lucky. And part of, when you say, Pete, do we try and give back to people? That's one of the things that I've been here. I want to support people from back home, from the UK, give them an opportunity to come and see what's available, just to let their mind grow in a way that maybe I didn't have growing up in London as a young trainee.
Sanj, will you sponsor me if I come and do my internship and start over? You sold me.
Happy to.
You are so over the hill.
I'll be like this 60-year-old intern.
But it's things like, for example, the academy, right? I remember as a trainee, I would hear Prof say, I'm going to the academy. And the closest thing I knew to the academy was police academy. That's the only thing that we saw, right? And I'm sure you've seen when you come to the academy, oh my God, it's just
ginormous.
It's just massive. Yes, absolutely massive. The amount of exhibitors and the amount of educational opportunities, it's crazy. Never saw that. So I think it's just these opportunities we're lucky to have. And hopefully we can help anybody come over and see these things and at least dip their toe in the water.
Yeah, no, fair play. We've got Basque next month in Cardiff. I think that's going to be on par with the American Academy. British Association for Surgery of the Knee. So
I think we'll edit that bit out, shall we? Tell us about your mentors. Who are the people who've been instructive to you over the years, who've been instrumental in, you mentioned a few on the way through. Anyone else who's really changed your direction?
Yeah, I think obviously the ones that I've mentioned. There's many I'm going to leave out. I think a couple of people that stand out to mind are there's a gentleman called Bill Seitz in Cleveland Clinic, and Peter Stern, who both are hand surgeons in Cincinnati, who are just really nice human beings. just they're a little bit older, and they sat me down and they just listened, just like Prof Bentley and McGrowther did. Cash mentioned earlier, I've got pretty heavily involved with the American Society for Surgery of the Hand, and served with a couple of people, Marty Boyer, Jim Chang, Jeff Greenberg. These are just good human beings, and it's not about what you are. It's about just listening to you, guiding you through the pros and cons, and being unbiased in their support. People who are leaders in their own right. But one of the things that I learned from them is just humility, right? They would have the time for you. They would listen to you and would give you just advice that was just good advice, even if you didn't want to hear it at the time. And I think I've just learned that. And our partners at Mayo here, my colleagues in the hand division, but in the department and also outside the Department of Orthopaedic Surgery, they're just good people. I've been fortunate that a lot of these people just listen to you. And one thing I've learned from them is the importance of family. Right. And a lot of people have been honest. They've been very successful. And when they look back at their career, their biggest regret maybe have been, to get to where they've gotten has been the sacrifice to their family. Yes. And when they look back at their career, they mention to you that, what we do is great, but today we're here, tomorrow we're gone. I just lost a great mentor of mine, Richard Berger, who was just a massive presence in hand surgery, but just was a great guy, great human being. And I think that's what I've sort of learned. And with our children, we say what we have is we're very lucky, but I don't want to sacrifice the family that we have. And I've learned that from these leaders, both here and at home and internationally, the power of family. I think it just keeps you grounded, to be honest. At the end of the day, there's nothing more important than that. I think we've learned that over COVID, right? COVID, we talk about a lot of bad things about COVID, but one of the best things about COVID was we spent time at home. We weren't traveling. And our kids are very young. They're 8, 7, 7, and 5, right? And so, it's just being there for them. I think that's what I've learned from these giants of who I mentioned during this discussion.
But the thing is, Sanj, I mean this seriously. You're quite a big cheese nowadays in hand surgery. So you're head of this or you're leader for that, and you're moving up the echelons in hand surgery in the US. And someday you may be, the big cheese. What is that's going to be a lot of traveling. It's going to be a lot of moving around, being invited to speak here, being invited guests there. It does drag you away from both your day job and your family, doesn't it? How does one balance that?
It does, Pete. But what I think what our kids are at the stage now is we'll start taking them with us, right? And so, for example, pre-COVID, what we would do on Saturdays is I would take my kids rounding. So there's a picture of me with my kids in their surgical scrubs because I didn't want them to resent the hospital. So what I would do is I would leave the children with the nurses. I would see the patients, do their dressing changes and then say to the patients, hey, listen, I have a little helper outside. What do you think? And the patients loved it. The kids came in, they would listen with their plastic stethoscopes and said, yes, Papa, I hear the heart beating. and then we would go into
liars.
And then we would go to yeah, exactly. And then we would go to the cafeteria and have a waffle or a pancake, and they loved it. So every Saturday they said, Papa, are we rounding? So I wanted to demystify this big building that takes us away from them from like 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. and they don't see us.
Yeah.
And so now as they're older, I want to take them to a meeting and just let them sit in the audience, see what we're doing when it's appropriate, of course. But I'm sure you think that the same as well. With your families.
All I'm hearing here is a pushy Indian dad pushing his kids into medicine by the back door. Brainwashing them early, Sanj. That's all I'm hearing.
Hey, by the front door, I would say. Absolutely. No potential.
Listen, it's given the three of us a good life, so we can't knock it.
How have you found your behaviour having to change, your sort of public persona and your presentation as you take on positions of responsibility? Have you found yourself having to rein in comments or be more political in the way you express things, talk about stuff? Or are you pretty good at that?
Oh yeah, there's certain sayings that we used to say pretty freely that we can't say anymore. Which English accent. The English accent does help.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely, without a doubt. But no, I think you just stay true to yourself. You just learn to rein certain words in, as you just said, Cash. And
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to edit those out.
But no, I think, like I'm sure yourselves, you've learned to sort of adapt as you've grown up a little bit. As we say, Peter Bates. You don't do what you used to do when we were in medical school and when you were drinking alcohol.
Okay.
I think you're giving too much credit. I don't think we've grown up at all, and I doubt Pete and I are going to be in any position of responsibility ever.
Sanj, I'm going to put you in a hypothetical situation. We asked this question to Heather as well. So you've got 6 weeks off. You're not allowed to go anywhere near. You've got your family, but you're not allowed anywhere near the Mayo Clinic. Nothing to do with hand surgery. Mandated time off. What are you going to do?
I'm going to play golf. And I'm going to get back to the level that I used to be at, is the first thing. And are you allowed to travel or not?
Yeah, you're allowed to travel. Yeah, you do whatever you like.
You do have a family as well. In this scenario.
I will travel with the kids. No, because honestly, you made a good point. So one thing that I've deliberately made a point of since having children is I try and get home if I can before they wake up on a Sunday morning. Because if you rock up at like noon, you've not been there. But they have that security that when they wake up and they see you in bed at 7 a.m. or whatever, that is huge. And so because of that, when we go to great parts of the country and the world, I sort of missed out on seeing the sort of touristy sites. Honestly, I feel a little bit guilty by doing that. I don't want to do that on my own. So to answer your question, Pete, I would take them to places that I've had the fortune of going, but I haven't really experienced it because I've wanted to get home. And the moment I get on the plane when I'm leaving, the first thing I'm thinking about is how can I get home before they wake up on a Sunday? And I think I've learned that from a few of these people that I mentioned who've taught me about their regrets. And it's about that. Rather than coming home at Sunday at 6 o'clock and you go to work on Monday, try and get home, even if it's Sunday at 4 a.m. before the kids wake up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sanj, you talk about the kids being privileged and leading a charmed life. Have they been to Greenford?
They have been to Greenford. They have, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. We have a 3-bedroom house, and they were sleeping on the floor. They've never slept on the floor, right? And at first they were like, well, and they were saying, where are the beds and everything. But honestly, these are kids. They loved it. We took them to Southall. They were just shocked in all the shops and the noise, because as you said, it's not Rochester, Minnesota. And the first thing that hit them was the noise, the lights, the color, the smells. But they loved it. Kids are kids. You remember when I used to go to India and sleep on the floor with family, and never done that before.
Yeah, no, that'll keep them grounded for sure. Sanj, listen, just before we round up, can I ask, what does the future hold for you? Are you in Rochester, Minnesota now till the end?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it sounds corny, but it's a privilege to work here. It's so easy to work here.
I don't want to hear this. No, not the corporate speak. I want to know the truth. What's your long term?
She's chair of ophthalmology here, and so things are great. Things are great. Her career's going well, and for us to have the career that we have, we just live so close, so we can be home in 10 minutes. Yeah. And we're back and forth. And that's very hard to do in another major city in Boston, New York. But honestly, we're not even thinking that far ahead.
Gotcha. Sanj, listen, when you come back to London next, please do hook us up. I'll take you to Anfield. I'll get some tickets and we'll go to Southall as well.
Oh, God.
And we'll take Pete to Southall. That'd be interesting. It'd be like seeing a white rhino. Pete, you're coming with us. Sanj, listen, thank you very much for joining us today, pal. It's been...
thank you so much.
It's funny, we've only ever met once, like 7 years ago, and it feels like I really know you, and it's been great to chat. So thank you for making the time.
Thank you, boys. This is... Go on.
No, I was going to say I really particularly appreciate Liverpool posters over your shoulder.
No, honestly, it's been an honor and a privilege. I was looking forward to this, Cash, when you reached out on Twitter, right, of anything. And I've been looking forward to this for months. And thank you so much. It's so good to see you both. And I agree. It's as if we're sitting in a pub in London and the camaraderie and friendship is still as strong as it was back in the 90s when I saw Mr. Bates in all his crown and glory.
Now it's all just crown, as far as I can see.
Brilliant. Sanj, thanks ever so much. Lovely to have you on.
Pete, who's our next guest?
Mark Swionkowski, legend of trauma.
Editor of a little magazine you may have heard of, the Journal of Bone and Joint Surgery.
Yeah, no longer the American version.
No.
Yeah, so that's I'm really excited.
We need to ask about this kind of the American Revolution.
Yeah, how the negotiation went on that one.
Yeah, Sanj, have you got any questions for us to ask Mark Swionkowski?
No. Mark is just up the road from us, right? He's in Minneapolis.
Right.
So
Yes.
he is about an hour drive from us. So Mark's a great guy, really, and he's a great thinker and a great. You're gonna have a great time with him. He's just a wonderful. He's a truly nice guy.
Brilliant.
There you
Can't
go.
wait.
That sums it up. Thanks, buddy.